On the 17th of January, Games Workshop hosted the Las Vegas Open 2025, where they made several reveals, including the High Elves range and the Arcane Journal for them. Along with their reveals, they also showed off roadmaps and teases for 40k, Age of Sigmar, and the Old World, which is when we got this. To say that this is a welcome surprise would not even begin to explain how excited I am, especially given their statement last year about both Grand Cathay and Kislev in the Old World. But first, some background and context. On the 14th of September 2021, an article was published on the Warhammer community website revealing the collaboration between Games Workshop and Creative Assembly on bringing Grand Cathay to life from the ground up in Total War Warhammer 3. While the bulk of the article focuses on concepts, the background of Yin-Yin, and Grand Cathay itself, it also makes stark mention of the creation of an army book for the faction for 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battles in order to help the Creative Assembly and Warhammer Studio teams develop mechanics and units. Not only that, but the Warhammer The Old World logo has been stamped onto the corners of the concept art. On the 18th of February 2022, the map of Grand Cathay had also been revealed, showing the banners of Miao Ying, Zhao Ming, and Shen Yang himself. For all intents and purposes, Grand Cathay was coming to the Old World. Until... On the 22nd of February 2024, an article was published covering the additions coming to the Shadows of the Change DLC after its very controversial release. I won't go into the controversies behind the DLC, as it has many other videos about it from people much more articulate than I am, and it just doesn't have anything to do with today's topic. But nevertheless, as good as the news was that such additions and changes were coming to Shadows to Change, there was some bad news. At the bottom of the page, it was revealed, quote, "Fans of Warhammer The Old World should note that there aren't any current plans to bring Kislev or Grand Cathay to the tabletop for the foreseeable future." End quote. This definitely put a huge dampener on things, and was certainly a confusing choice to make after one of the earliest articles and reveals for the Old World was of concept art for Kislev. Though, granted, foreseeable future does not mean never, but it certainly almost felt like it, leaving a lot of hope stashed. That was until the 2025 Las Vegas Open reveals, when a roadmap for the Old World was shown to have a third faction in the works, alongside Beastmen and Wood Elves. Many people very quickly picked up on the resemblance between the superimposed sepia image in the box and a part of the top left of this artwork of Grand Cathay. Following that as well, a dragon ship of Grand Cathay made an appearance on the interactive map on the Warhammer The Old World website. This also certainly brings hope not only for Kislev to come to the Old World, but the legacy factions as well. Looking to the future, what sorts of things could we see for Grand Cathay in the Old World? Starting with the story itself, let's look at what's going on within Grand Cathay at this point. As we know, Grand Cathay has long been surrounded by enemies from outside. The Ogre Kingdoms to the west, Indian Koresh to the south, Elven Pirates to the east, and the Forces of Chaos beyond the Great Bastion to the north. However, at this time, things were even more dire than what we see in Total War Warhammer 3. This is a time of darkness and disharmony, when the Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress have seemingly disappeared from Grand Cathay. At this time, many ambitious figures plotted for power and position while the land became infested with unchecked banditry and rebellious lords. The Dragon siblings also struggle with their own issues presented to them, especially Yuan Bo as he tries desperately to hold the Celestial Court together in the midst of bickering and disharmony. This would eventually result in the changeling, Monkey King, taking the throne and the installation of a Skaven warlord as an advisor. Luckily, both would be driven out and control re-established with the return of the Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress. So, what could this mean story-wise? I'm not entirely sure if I'm being honest. Games Workshop have said before that the focus is going to be on the Old World location-wise, which makes sense to an extent, given the game's title. But it also doesn't, as there have been focuses on other regions such as the Northern Chaos Wastes, all the way down to Neherkara. So, whether or not it will focus entirely on Grand Cathay's presence in the Old World, or expand more upon what's going on in Grand Cathay itself, we'll have to see. But what about the models? This, I feel, we can be more certain of thanks to Total War Warhammer 3. Grand Cathay is a culture of extremely rigid order and harmony, which makes change, to Tzeentch's chagrin or excitement, a much more difficult and risky thing to pull off. So I believe it's likely that what we see for the tabletop game will be very similar, if not exactly the same, as in Total War Warhammer 3. Things such as peasant levies, Jade warriors, Iron Hail and Crane gunners, and potentially even Sky Lanterns and Sky Junks. The models themselves will likely not be exactly one-to-one with the in-game unit models in terms of detailing. The best comparison that could be made is comparing Britonia's new Knights of the Realm on foot to the in-game Knights of the Realm themselves. They will definitely be filled with detail, but some parts may seem different or lacking to help keep things in line with the scale. I feel the Jade Warriors, Peasants, and Celestial Dragon Guard kits will also be multi-part, having single sets of bodies but the choice of ranged and melee weapons. Think of the Dark Elf Infantry box, which gives you the choice of Dread Spears, Bleak Swords, and Dark Shards. There are also the heroes and named characters to consider. Assuming that they don't reveal all of the current ones we have in Total War, I think the heroes themselves will either be a Celestial General or Gatemaster, and then either a Dragon-Blooded Shugengun, or one of the two other spellcasters, those being the Alchemist and Astromancer. As for the named characters, I would certainly hope it to be one of the Dragon Children. With that, I think it could be one of three options: Miao Ying, Yuan Bo, and Yin-Yin. Let me explain. Miao Ying is very popular, and the character who seems to be the face of Grand Cathay in terms of marketing and discussion around the faction. But Yuan Bo is the big dragon behind the Celestial Dragon Emperor himself, so to speak. Not only that, but he has travelled outside of the nation itself to pursue external goals, if Total War is anything to go by. And then there's Yin-Yin. I feel this may be a confusing choice at first, considering there's also Zhao Ming to consider. But the reason why I feel it could be Yin-Yin is because of the presence of the dragon ship on the interactive map. At this time, Yin-Yin is far more concerned with finding riches and glory beyond Grand Cathay, so it could very well be that she has travelled beyond Lustria and out towards far more distant and lucrative seas, leading to her involvement, direct or indirect, with matters in the overall story. And with a very big huff of opium, may even coincide with a Yin-Yin reveal for another Grand Cathay DLC. Though until then, I'll be enjoying the excellent Roar of the Jade Sea mod for Total War Warhammer 3 by Poljanan, and I do apologise if I'm mispronouncing that username. The army box itself I feel will have a good chunk of peasants, maybe one or two Jade units, and the special editions being, judging from the pattern of the other boxes, Crane Gunners, a cannon or rocket battery, a Jade or Jet Lion, or Jade Lancers. What will be interesting to see is what they do with their army book. Will they have entirely their own book to themselves, or will they be part of a second edition of the Old World and included in a large book, and then have an arcane journal? I think it's too early yet for a second edition to come out, so I believe it will be the former. As said prior, I cannot overstate my excitement for Grand Cathay in the Old World. It will likely be a long wait as we prepare for the big reveals of Beastmen and Wood Elves emerging from the forest to wreak havoc on each other. I'm very much hopeful that we will have the full roster available as of the current one in Total War Warhammer 3, even if it ends up being split at first between one half in one release, and in the second in another wave of releases. But what I am even more hopeful for isn't actually to do with Grand Cathay, but with Kislev and the Legacy factions. Like many of the community, I feel it was a mistake, though sort of understandable, to leave these factions behind. I would definitely like to see both the older factions and Kislev brought forward in future, and given the same love that the current core factions have. Trust me, you are all not alone in your wishes for your factions to be given their grand returns. Thank you for listening. The arrival of Grand Cathay to the tabletop is one I am incredibly excited for, and I cannot wait to pick up their models and paint them up. I'm still undecided on what colour scheme to go for, to be honest. The previous statement that Grand Cathay would not be coming for the foreseeable future did disappoint me for a while, though after playing some games of the Old World for myself, I found the game to be incredibly fun, even if I have yet to win a game. I can't wait to see its further development and growth throughout 2025 and beyond. Until then, may the dragon of Grand Cathay roar out its arrival onto the tabletop.